responded differently. As a grandmother, it is hysterical.
As a grandmother, it's hysterical. All right, cool. So now I want to flip to the other side of the coin. Those who did not find it comical, why was that?
Because the child's learned this over time. This wasn't the one time he tried this and saw that it was going to work. And we know that in order for kids to grow up with a healthy emotional development and a good sense of self, you need to respond to them. And she didn't respond to him.
Okay.
He's learned over time that he's not going to be responded to.
Okay, so he's learned over time that he's not going to be responded to. All right.
So
Yes,
he
ma'am.
doesn't trust his world.
He doesn't trust his world.
I'm just going to say, yeah, and I don't think my mother's perspective. I love that comment. It's pretty fun. Maybe that will change the mother's perspective. Maybe they're really uncomfortable watching it because I cannot stand it when people use kids' emotional issues as entertainment.
Okay.
Even if it's funny, even if you think he might be in that. I didn't think he was acting. I thought he was totally upset every time that happened.
Okay.
So the fact that they were videotaping this as entertainment.
Okay, cool. Yes, ma'am. I'll take your hand, and then I'll take these last two hands.
I felt like this woman up here, as a mother, is concerning, as a grandmother, I can kind of laugh at it. But I also did some early childhood mental health stuff, and I know that is traumatizing to a child. It's funny initially, but as they go from room to room for their own entertainment, and they're not putting the child's needs first, and it's a concern.
Okay, cool. Yes, ma'am. Your hand, and then your hand is the last one, and then we'll move on. Yes,
From kind of an opposite perspective, what concerned me was the fact that this child, it seems like, they may have spoiled him. Maybe he thinks that crying is the only way to get some attention, whereas if they put a stop to it, I'm going to say they should address it, obviously, but it seems like he might be spoiled.
Okay, so it seems like he may be
Well,
spoiled.
it just means that they haven't given him the tools to tell them how he's feeling.
Right, I'm not saying that they've done the right thing.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I just think from a different perspective, always think that advocates, developmentally, like, how many tools do we have at this point? I mean, like, seriously, I mean, if the parents weren't giving him what he needed, like, that's how he was responding, if they weren't responding to that, he would have stopped. He would have been like, all right, they're not paying attention to me, and, just like Pavlov's dog, her bell, the moral bell thing, and it gets a learn, and he was trying to get attention. I think that it wasn't spiteful.
Yeah, and whether it is or isn't, I mean, I can't lay moral judgment on this. All I can do is say what happened. I can look at this and see what happened. And one of the things that I find interesting is, and someone made the comment, that the baby is doing this because what? Because it's worked. He's doing it because it's worked. Now, here's the interesting thing. When will the baby stop falling out as a way to try to get or attain his comfort or his whatever he's desiring? When will he stop doing that? When they turn the camera off, okay? Or when it stops working. Is it working now? No. What are some clues that we know that this falling out thing is not working? Yes, sir.
Well, one of the things, I don't know if this is on the subject, one of the things that reminded me of it reminds me of like the generational gaps between Martian and like how like the generation marshes and they don't have any of those tools. And you see they would go to someplace else and you would start crying. And that was like kind of like how they didn't learn extra tools. So just like how generation marched into like my generation that uses social media. That's what it reminds me of.
Okay, so this could be a metaphor for kind of generational or social gaps in terms of trying to get what you need, using the old skills to try to get new stuff. All right, new results. How do we know that this isn't working?
The dog.
What about the dog?
The dog is not paying the child any attention.
The dog is not paying any attention.
I'm serious. The dog, if that child really needed something, that dog would behave.
So one of the clues that this behavior is not working is that the behavior is getting repeated. But I want to go back to, why is the behavior being repeated?
Because he doesn't have another way.
He doesn't have another way?
In the past.
because it's worked in the past. And so we are beings that build our thought processes on success, right? And so it is my belief as I'm growing up developmentally that if it's worked in the past, given a new situation that is very similar to the one that I had in the past, then that behavior should what? Work. Which also means that if it's worked in the past, it should work in the present, which also means that it should work when? In the future. And I will continue that pattern until something happens for me, right? So, why is it that bigoted people act bigoted? Because it's worked in the past, they've used it to have some success in the present, and they will continue to do that until they no longer have success. And so what typically happens is that we brand those people and we give them certain kinds of names and designations that create more problems. But I'll get to that a little bit later. So here are my basic assumptions about human development, growth, and how we interact. That people can learn, change, and grow. Who I was at 17, thank God, is not who I am today. We unleashed something on the world that I wish we could just take back, and it's called sagging. Right? My generation, we just, sagged a little bit, but now they're showing, tramp stamps and all this crazy stuff, right? So all behavior is goal-directed. So everything that we do is trying to help us achieve some kind of goal, all right? Everything that we do is to achieve a goal. People do what makes sense to them, even if it doesn't make sense to you and I, right? But as long as it makes sense to them, they'll do it. And that attitude is a response to a goal. What have you been taught about what an attitude is? What is an attitude? It's what?
It's a negative thing.
It's a negative thing.
The way you approach life.
It's the way you approach life. All right. How many people are going to come to my next session after this afternoon? Okay, cool. Not a lot of you, so I can tell that. All right. So okay, attitude. My dad was my pastor. In my dad was my pastor, and I'm 17 years old, and we went to church on Sunday from 7:30 a.m. to 11:30 p.m. We'd stop at 3 o'clock for chicken, not because we were black, but because chicken is delicious. So Sunday, church all day. Friday night, I asked my dad for the car, and what does my dad say? Because he loves me. He says, yes, he loves me. Right? So I get the car, I'm hanging out with my friends, I fill up the car with gas, I come home before curfew, and my dad says I have what kind of an attitude? A good or a positive attitude, right? What do I say about my dad's attitude? That he's got a good or a positive attitude, right? So Sunday, my best friend Dexter calls me at 12 o'clock. He says, Andre, can you pick me up for the movies? What do I know about Sundays? Church all day. But I'm invincible. I'm 17, so I go up to my dad, and so, Jesus is my friend, so if you call on him, he'll answer prayers, right? So I go up to my dad and say, Dad, can I borrow the car? And what does my dad say? Not only does he say no, but he gives me the lecture about how I'm leading people to hell. Every negative consequence in my family, the ultimate consequence was that you were going to hell. So as a result of getting that news, what do I say about my dad's attitude? That he has a bad attitude. Conversely, what does he say about my attitude? That I have a bad attitude. So what is it that actually determines one's attitude? Okay, so let's back up. So you obviously have teenagers in your lives, right? Have you ever been in a situation where you've had to deny a teenager access to something that they wanted? Yes. What was that experience like? Hell. She said hell. Now, that same biological entity that we will call a teenager is now requesting something else from you, and you are able to grant their wish. How is that different than that first individual that you had to encounter? Right? When teenagers get what they want, it's as if they purr, you know, and they want to cuddle. And right? Why is that? Because they're getting access to what they want. So when I encounter a person with a bad attitude, what is the one thing that I know about them for sure?
They aren't getting what they want.
They're not getting what they want. And so as a helper, what becomes my twofold responsibility to them?
Figure out what they want.
I have to figure it out. What's the easiest thing to help them get a good attitude? Help them get what they want. That's the first thing. What if what they want is outside of their ability to hold on to resources, is outside of their ability to garner the resources, or it's just totally impossible for their current situation? Then what becomes my job? Give them the tools to adjust to not reaching their goals. Help them change directions. Help them find a new goal. All too often as parents and as helpers and as adults, we want to rescue kids from themselves. But there is something that you learn from crawling on the ground. There's something that you learn by looking up at beings that are bigger than yourself. So our job is not to rescue folks, but to give them the tools to help them find the path to accomplish their goals. Because what happens if we give somebody a goal?
It's our goal.
It's our goal. And they're not motivated to do anything about it. And so I believe in the Socratic method. When I taught high school, my kids would come to me and ask me a question. And how would I respond? I'd respond with another question. Because the answers that they're seeking from me are the ones that they can find for themselves. I can give them the answer, but I'd be robbing them of an experience that they could be having. All right? So I know you're wondering, what does this have to do with cultural competence? I want you to keep this stuff in mind as we start bringing this closer together. So when we talk about this concept of goal, we talk about the goal. What is the goal? All right? And so what I'd like to offer you is that all of us, no matter where we come from, no matter what economic status we're a part of, we are all seeking to find significance, belonging, and safety. All right? That our power, our ability is recognized by other folks, that we're in groups of people who can help connect our ability to do things, and that they're able to keep us productive and safe. All right? So what I'd like for you to do, those 5 circles that I had you draw, what I want you to do is put one thing that you value in each one of those circles. One thing that you value in each one of those circles. All right? It could be a concept. It could be a person. It could be a relationship. It could be a thing like a cabin or a house or a car. One thing that you value in each one of those circles.
It has to be a thing.
No, I said it could be a concept.
Oh, thank you.
Yep. It could be a concept like peace, love, joy. It could be a thing. It could be a person. One value in each one of those circles. All right. What I'd like for you to do now, it looks like most people, as I'm looking out there, have at least 4, if not all 5. What I'd like for you to do now is we're going to play a game, and the game is very simple. What I want you to do is I want you to find 2 people for each one of the circles that you have. One person can only sign your paper once. All right? So I want you to find 2 people for each one of your circles, but only one person can only sign your paper once. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So the person has to have the same thing on their paper?
They either have to have the same thing on their paper, or they agree with what you have on your paper. All right? And I will give you 90 seconds to do this on your mark, get set, go.